All right, so last time we talked a little bit about ways that potential criteria for words to be meaningful. Um, so we're going to finish that conversation, and then we're going to talk about section 3.5, which is about um, distinctions between nuances of meanings of words. All right. Well, last time we spoke at length about logical positivism, and we went through all the examples, discussing whether or not they're meaningful on the rules of logical positivism. And probably the most significant thing we came across was that positivism, the basic rules of positivism, fail the criterion for meaningfulness on positivism itself. So positivism claims that words are only meaningful if they're empirically testable, and we revealed that that claim itself is not empirically testable. There's no laboratory experiment that can be run on that. It's just a stipulated starting point, and therefore the basic rules of positivism fail the rules for meaningfulness put forward by positivism. So positivism is a good way to run a lab, but it's a bad way to run a broader criterion for truth. So now we're going to go through the same examples again, but this time instead of asking whether the expressions are meaningful according to positivism, we're going to ask whether the ideas are meaningful according to pragmatism and pragmatic definitions. So we'll do that next. I have a session number for you first, however. The session number for your app is 901-828. That is 901-828. 901-828. All right. All right. It's cold outside. Is this claim meaningful according to pragmatism? Does it make a practical difference in whether or not somebody believes it is cold outside? Good, 100%. Yes, it is meaningful. What practical difference does it make if it's cold outside? What will people do differently?
They're trying to stay warm.
Yeah, if you think it's cold outside, you're going to grab a jacket. If you don't think it's cold outside, you won't grab a jacket and you'll be uncomfortable. So it makes a practical difference. That clock is fast. Is that a meaningful claim according to pragmatism? What practical difference might it make for that claim to be true. Yeah, that's a meaningful claim. What will be the practical difference if that clock is fast or if we think that clock is fast? What will happen differently? Yeah, you'll end up being early, or if you think the clock is fast, you won't take the clock as seriously and you'll adjust your schedule a little bit. But the point is, the claim that the clock is fast is meaningful, and it makes a difference whether or not you believe it is fast. How about this? There are 5-foot-long blue ants in your bedroom. Is this a meaningful claim? Might it make a practical difference in some way if you believed this was true? Yes, that's definitely meaningful. It's ridiculous, but meaningful. What difference would it make? What would you do differently if you thought there were 5-foot-long ants in your bedroom?
You're trying to get them out of your bedroom?
You would try to get them out of your bedroom. You'd call an exterminator. You might avoid the bedroom. You might be creeped out long term about the bedroom. Yeah, it makes a difference whether or not you think there are 5-foot-long blue ants in the bedroom. Oh, what about form is metaphysically prior to matter? What might be? Is there a practical difference that believing that it's true or false might make? What might that difference be? How might that matter? Yeah, good. This is exactly the sort of thing that pragmatists are trying to get away from. This is an ancient debate in metaphysics, goes back to Aristotle. I happen to even think this claim is true, but I can't even figure out what sort of practical difference it might make. It makes sort of a difference in your ordering of ideas, but it doesn't really make a practical difference to life. So pragmatists don't like this claim. They find it to be meaningless. What about at noon, all lengths, distances, and velocities in the universe will double? Is that a meaningful claim or not a meaningful claim? What sort of difference would believing this make? Yeah, this one is probably not meaningful. I mean, what's kind of tricky about pragmatism is this. One of the things that makes claims meaningful is the way we react to them. So there can be always someone who reacts, frankly, a little irrationally in a way that makes make a practical difference. So let's say I'm 5'6" and I'm a little short for a guy and I have bad self-esteem because of it. Let's say I am told that my height just doubled and I am now 11 feet tall. Now, I'm the same proportionally to everything else in the universe. So I'm not taller than anyone wasn't taller than yesterday. And I'm not really any bigger proportionally than I was yesterday. But maybe I just feel better about myself because I am now 11 feet tall instead of 5.5 feet tall. So maybe in that case, it might make a difference, but everything is proportionally the same. I'm still going to get places the same speed I was before. I'm not taller than anything I was before. I'm not shorter than anything I was before. So unless I have sort of an irrational emotional reaction, it shouldn't make a difference. It's kind of like saying, let's make everybody feel better about their monetary situation. We're going to double everybody's money. And we'll double the price of everything. So will you feel better about your financial situation? You might. A lot of people will be fooled by that. Some people claim that's the situation with minimum wage. I'm not sure that's true. Anyway, I'm wearing an invisible hat that can't be perceived in any way. Meaningful, not meaningful. Yeah, this is kind of like the all things doubling. it's probably not meaningful unless I have a weird emotional reaction to how I feel about having this invisible hat. So if it makes me extra confident or something like that, then maybe it does. But in general, this is the kind of thing that doesn't seem to make a practical difference. Regina's toe hurts, but she shows no signs of it and will deny it if you ask her. Sounds like Regina's got some problems. Yeah, that's probably not meaningful. Again, the only thing it might affect is something like this. Does it change Regina's behavior? So let's say Regina's a runner, or just even just exercises, and she says, "Yeah, I won't admit to anyone that my toe hurts," but she thinks to herself, "Yeah, I shouldn't run today because my feet hurt." So that would be a practical difference again if there's something the individual does like that. Other humans have no thoughts or feelings, but only act as if they do. Does this make a practical difference or not? Yeah, I mean, yes, this probably does make a difference. Yes.
Are we judging these using logical positivism?
No, we're on pragmatism now. Yeah. So does this make a practical difference? What might the difference be? How might you act differently if you thought other people don't really have thoughts or feelings?
You usually might act in a way that you try not to hurt someone else's feelings.
Good. Yeah, if you think other people don't have internal thoughts or feelings and that I'm the only one that has this special internal phenomena, you might act as if they don't matter very much. In fact, with child psychology and child moral development, one of the most important things to teach children early on is, did you like it when, how would you like it if what you did to this kid was done to you? Oh, that would make you feel bad? Well, don't you think doing that to them makes them feel bad? And you teach them empathy. You teach them that other humans have thoughts and feelings. This is not something that, toddlers naturally know. And you need to, and once they realize that, they get a lot better and their behavior starts to improve. So people who think that other humans don't have thoughts or feelings, I mean, that's something that's correlated with like really, really bad stuff like serial killing. Also, in cultures where they start to depersonalize people, that makes them easier to enslave people or to genocide groups. Once you start thinking that maybe they don't have the same kinds of internal experiences, they don't count the same way, they're not rational the way we are, something like that. That's always tends towards really bad things. So yes, I assure you, it makes a huge practical difference if people believe that. Manuel will continue to have conscious experiences after death. Yeah, that's probably meaningful. How might it change somebody's life if they thought they were going to have conscious experiences after death? Imagine your Manuel. How might that make you experience life differently?
People will be less worried about dying.
Well, for one thing, might make you less worried about dying. Anything else?
Would really be focused on problems of like this world, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah, it might make you, not worry so much about everything that goes wrong in this world. I mean, I've got eternity. I don't have to worry about everything that goes wrong. I mean, of course, whether or not, how it affects your life might depend on what kinds of conscious experiences you expect to have after death. If you think you'll be like stuck as a ghost and not able to interact with things and that would be unpleasant, that might have a different effect than if you think you get to be in paradise with all your best friends and family forever. Angels exist. How or is this meaningful? If so, what difference might it make if someone thinks angels exist? Yeah, that's probably meaningful. What practical difference might it make if people think angels exist? Yes. Okay, that's right. You might try to find them. What else? Yes. Yeah, that's one of the traditional stories that I've heard about angels, that they, you have your guardian angel. So this might mean you feel like you're being watched out for, might make you feel comfortable, safer, something like that. God exists. Yeah, that's certainly meaningful. What's practical difference might it make if people think God exists?
Obviously, that there's God and everything we know about the universe, probably need to change from that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, clearly, if you take this to all of its possible logical extensions, it probably changes the way people approach life.
On top of that, I would just say it changes the way that you understand what you know, and understand what you're capable of. No?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I suppose it also depends on what kind of God you think exists and what you think the world is like because of God. But generally, it makes you a little more optimistic. I mean, you think everything's going to work out in the end. Good beats evil. We're all being watched out for. It's kind of like that angels exist thing, but like on steroids. On the other hand, if you think God exists and he's like wrathful and mean, well, that might affect ourselves a little bit differently. All right, meaningful or not meaningful? One ought to be logically consistent. Yeah, that's probably meaningful. What difference does it make to you? What difference might it make to you if you believe you ought to be logically consistent?
For one, you will try to be logically consistent.
Okay, so for any ought statement, you'll try to follow it. Anything else?
There might be less emotion tied into your action.
There might be less emotion. You might think a little more, rationally, detachedly, impartially. Anything else? Well, let me suggest maybe what's revealing here is what happens if you don't try to be logically consistent? Well, your goals and your values might be incoherent. They might not make any sense. So you might, your goals might be sort of self-undermining. So it is really valuable to sort of pick a set of goals or a set of things that are consistent with each other rather than ones that are not consistent with each other. All right, any claim whose truthfulness makes no practical difference is meaningless. Is that meaningful or not meaningful? This is definitely meaningful. People who think, whose worldview is pragmatic. I mean, on the one hand, they emphasize the practical, which tends to be helpful. On the other hand, frankly, it tends towards a kind of anti-intellectualism because they always want to know, when are we going to use this? And they want the answer to be something very practical and immediate. So people stop studying philosophy. They even stop studying some of the more abstract areas of science and stuff And so it does have some unhealthy tendencies, I think. It has some good tendencies in the short term, but there are some challenges to it. How about this? Is it pragmatically meaningful that any statement that isn't empirically testable is meaningless? So is the claim of logical positivism meaningful according to pragmatism? Good. Yes. Yes. So this is kind of a funny thing. Logical positivists, the central claim of logical positivism is not meaningful according to positivism, but it is meaningful if you're a pragmatist, because people who live this way or think this way in terms of the strictest kind of positivism, empiricism, it does change the way they live their lives. That makes it very sort of narrower and just only focusing on the empirical. So it does make a practical difference. All right. Any final questions about that before we move on? Have we adequately beaten that to death? Okay. Let's talk about section 3.5. All right, let's talk about distinctions in language. Words are often less clear than we realize. And one of the things that makes words less clear than we realize is the fact that many words have multiple competing definitions. Many very mundane words have far more definitions and potential nuances to definitions than the average speaker is aware of. So it's extraordinarily important to be aware of the way you are using words yourself, so that you use words consistently in the same way, and that you don't shift between competing usages of words. It's even more important that when interacting with others, that you're aware of their usages of words and try to make sure that you and them are using words the same way. So here is sort of a silly example of using a word in multiple competing ways. Someone might say, I love my wife, but I also love cheeseburgers. Therefore, my wife ought to be jealous. Now, of course, the argument's ridiculous. But why is it ridiculous? It's ridiculous because of a problem called ambiguity or equivocation. And what that means is that we are using the same word in different ways in sort of the same argument, in the same line of thought. So we're using the word love in multiple different ways. I love definition 1. I have a committed relationship with my spouse, but I also love different definition 2. I really, really enjoy cheeseburgers. Therefore, my wife ought to be jealous. Now, of course, the argument is flawed because the word love refers to 2 very different concepts. So that is called ambiguity or equivocation, when your argument or discussion depends on differing definitions for the same word. So to avoid ambiguities, you have to identify the definition of a word that you're using, and you have to be aware of the many various definitions, and avoid misunderstandings based on competing definitions. So I think the best sitcom ever was The Office. And one of the characters in The Office, Michael Scott, the incompetent manager of Dunder Mifflin and Scranton, was prone to misusing words and making mistakes and misunderstandings. So in one episode, he's sort of hit financial rock bottom. He's in massive debt. And one of the accountants says, we have a solution for you. You can declare bankruptcy and all your debt will go away. Michael Scott was very excited about this. So in the next scene, he steps out into the office and he says, I declare bankruptcy. And then he goes back into his office, feeling much better about his situation and feeling assured that things are going to be okay. Luckily, the accountant comes back into his office and says, Michael, saying the word bankruptcy doesn't change anything. You know, you have to file paperwork. He says, you have to file paperwork. I didn't just say the word bankruptcy, I declared it. Now, the joke being, of course, you know, when people say you need to declare bankruptcy, they mean declare means you need to file official legal paperwork with the government, putting yourself into a certain financial state. But another use of the word declare is just to say something, or to say something very distinctly and loudly. So all that to say, we need to know and be aware of the various ways we use words. All right, so to make this point a little farther, let me pick one of the most mundane words I can think of. The word block. I want to give you 2 minutes, and I want you to come up with as many differing usages and meanings of the word block that you can come up with. And in 2 to 3, so take out a pen and paper, jot down as many meanings and usages of the word block that you can come up with. If collectively we can't get to at least 20 different usages, then we're lagging behind most of my classes on this. Usually we get 20 or 30 different usages of the word block. So all that to say, there are lots of usages. So take 2 minutes, define block, use block as many ways as possible. All right, let's give this some effort. Who can give me a use or definition of the word block? Yes.
It's like row of houses.
Like a row of houses?
Yeah, like a block, a city block.
Yeah, city block, sure. What else?
A cube,
A cube?
like a wood cube, like a toy block.
Oh, yeah, toy, sure. What else?
So like be blocked by like someone like on like social media, like or
All right, so to block on media, sure, we gotta get rid of the stalker somehow, right? What else?
Block like impede progress.
Okay, to impede progress. What else?
To defend against ours.
Okay, to defend. And what else?
Stopping something.
Okay, to stop something. To stop or prevent. What else?
You're on the block of like the up next, you'd up, either a good or a bad one, you've got to top the block. Next up.
That's right. Either it can be good, we're auctioning off on the auctioning block, or it can be, really bad. That you can be up next on the French Revolution's chopping block. That would be quite bad. Yes,
Like a mental block?
absolutely. A mental block. So I can't think clearly about something. I can't develop my thoughts. That'd be awful. What would that be?
It's like a certain amount of time.
Okay, good. You can use it as a sort of a scheduling block, a measurement of time. This is especially like in high school, you've got that. Yes.
Administrative block, something that you stop something administratively.
Okay, good. So something that is sort of blocked by bureaucracy, blocked by administration. Like when they don't let you register for classes or something.
Say blocking out information.
Blocking out information. So it's kind of selective listening or selective thinking. Fortunately, we all do that. What else?
Like a block of paper?
A block of paper, sure. It can be a sort of a measurement or shape of things. Including paper. Or cheese, strangely enough. What else?
The building block is the foundation.
Okay. It can be part of the foundation. A cinder block. What else?
like a physical block or like a handicap. In other words.
Okay. Oh, okay. So sort of a physical challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
I said a swim block.
A swim block. That's right. And that's like your starting point, right? Yeah. What else?
Like defining a block as in like a blocky shape or like square, like sharp edges or something like that.
Good. Just the shape. All right. I'll give you one more.
Like an effective block?
What? Oh,
Yeah.
an internal block. Oh, that sounds really bad. So all I have to say, there are lots of uses of the word block. So even a super mundane, ordinary, boring word like the word block has many, many usages of it. And for clear communication, we have to be careful that we're all using it the same way in the same conversation. Now, if you look sort of closely, there's a couple different families of usages here. I mean, several of these are about shape. Several of these are about measurements. Several of these are about impediments. So yeah. And there's frankly a whole bunch we didn't get into, like, all sorts of sports have something called a block. You block a shot in basketball, you have blockers in football, I'm sure there are others. You block a goal in hockey. All right, enough about blocking. All right, let's get to the examples from 3.5a. And they're going to focus on words that are a little more esoteric than the word block. So the point here so far is that very mundane words like block can have many possible usages. Important words like love can have many competing usages. Politically important words like justice can have many competing definitions. Equality. One of the basic differences in our culture is that people don't have a shared definition of the word equality. So again, having agreed upon terms is vital, and people can, you can be quite far off if the usages of your words shift. All right, so here's one from 3.5a. This is the first one. Is ethics a science? What are the possible usages and meanings of the word science? Well, in contemporary world, most people think of something like positivism and associate science with just the experimental method. So can we determine what is right and wrong morally through laboratory experiments? Or in the older way of thinking, science was associated with systematic inquiry. So things that were capable of systematic examination were called sciences. Also, we might just refer to the kind of confidence one can have in the results of something. Science is associated with sort of higher confidence in results, pandemic notwithstanding. But so you might just mean, can we have confidence in our ethical views? Is it possible to resolve ethical topics with a kind of confidence? All right, the second example was, is this monkey a rational animal? What are the different understandings of the word rational? Well, we might be asking, is the monkey capable of learning? Or we might mean something deeper than that. Is the monkey capable of a kind of reflective self-consciousness? Does it have self-awareness? Can it try to be a better monkey? Or rationality historically was also associated with the idea of living well or wisely. So can this monkey try to live well or wisely? Can it try to live virtuously? Can it seek happiness in a systematic way? Common sense. Is this belief part of common sense? People use the word common sense in various competing ways. It might mean, we might be asking, is that belief just sort of customary, what the average person in our culture believes? We might mean, is it something that's easily confirmed by one of the five senses? Or common sense, you want to take the words woodenly, it might even refer to a sort of shared sensation, communal experience. Our common senses together, collective psyche, something like that. So again, words mean things. Is this object objective? I believe that was number 4. Ooh. What did I do with my textbook? Oh, there it is. Yeah, are material objects objective? When you ask, is something objective, you might mean, is the existence of material objects sort of independently verifiable as opposed to subjective? Or you might mean, is the function of material objects independent of our desires? Physical things are for what they're for, regardless of how we feel about them. Or objective also refers to impartial judgment. So can a material object be a good impartial judge? All right, well, that's all right, let's try to do some of these together. I've given you enough answers. Let's look at number 5 together. Are values relative? Who can give me a nuance of the word relative? Yes.
Do values have meaning?
Um, well, it's not that whether or not they have meaning, it's about types of meanings. So, so yeah, so what else? What else?
Are code values able to change any time?
Okay, so one possibility between absolute and relative value is, are the values fixed or shifting in some way? What else?
Value something that you differ from person to person, or just something that you be the same for everyone.
Good. So there's a should possible interpretation. Are these the sorts of things that should be different from person to person, or is that a bad thing that they differ from person to person? Good. What else?
Do values have like a universal reality to them?
Okay, good. Is there a universal reality to them? Good. I mean, again, since we're just talking about meanings of words, we could even make a joke in here about our values relative. Is this value my third cousin twice removed? That would also be a possible, very incorrect misinterpretation of what's being said there. Number 6, are scientific generalizations ever certain? So what is one possible use of the word certain then? Good. Sort of totally, ultimately, it will never be overturned. What else? This one's probably a little more difficult than some of the others. But again, if we're talking about the word certain, are scientific generalizations ever very confident in themselves? We might use it to personify them and say, are they certain in themselves? Or are they certain things? Are generalizations a specific thing, a certain thing in that sense of the word certain? All right, 7. Was the action of that monkey a free act? What are some nuances of the word free? Another very important political word.
Did it cost anything?
Good. Are you what the monkey put on a show for me? Are you going to charge me? Could mean that. What else could it mean?
I have a question.
Oh yeah. Okay. Ask your question.
So when we're looking at words, just a factor in other people's opinions,
Sort of yes and no. What we're actually looking for here is nuances of definitions. So if someone just doesn't know how words are used in our culture and is just misusing a word, a classic Michael Scott thing, we're not interested in that. What we are interested in is a use of the word that is a definition, even if it's not appropriate in this context. So that we are interested in. So I don't know. So does that answer your question?
I was more talking about like
Okay.
a word that different different types of
Good.
Would you be taking in like different subjective opinions?
Well, as long as the usage of the word is broad enough that it's the sort of thing that would show up somewhere in a dictionary, then yes. So yeah, equality, some people think equality refers to being treated the same by the law. Other people think equality means every job ought to be paid exactly the same, or every outcome of every choice ought to be identical. And there's a bunch of other ideas about equality in between. So again, as long as it's a common enough use that it's just not based on an individual misunderstanding, then we're interested in it. All right, back to monkeys and free acts. So free act, is that monkey's action going to cost me anything, is one nuance of free. What else? Good. So is the owner of the monkey sort of not giving it any choices? That would be another one. What's the third use of the word free in this context? Well, this might mean the big picture free will question. Even if the monkey chose to do it, was that choice sort of an illusion? Was that choice sort of an inevitable result of a chain of cause and effect that resulted in that monkey doing that that dance instead of something else. All right, I've got 3 or 4 minutes. Are there any others in here that people would like me to talk about specifically? Because I don't have enough time to go through them all. Or shall we call it a day? How are we doing? How's everybody doing? Are we down because it was warm for like 6 hours and now it's back to 30 degrees? Yeah, that always affects my spirits. All right, well, look, stay warm, keep up on the homeworks, practice with the Logicola. You've got another exam coming up in the not too distant future. So, like I said, I think we're doing okay on these sections. We'll review as things get closer to the next exam. Hang in there, stay warm. Have a good lunch if you haven't had it yet. Thank you. How we doing? Oh. Right.
So, I don't know if you know the results for it. I'm not sure how you need
How did you understand that? Yeah, I can, we can talk to them about that. I mean, so yeah, I'll support your application.
I'm going to find out more information.
Sure.
That are required, but
Sure.
would you support that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's the sort of position that gets lots of requests. Not the first month of the semester, but after exam 1. You got a 96, and so did 20% of the class. But 20% of the class also got Fs, and some of them got bad Fs, like ones that were within the range of like what you should get mathematically guess on, on a multiple choice test. So, so you get people who are really lost, and people who often aren't used to being lost. So you need to do a lot of thinking. But yeah, I think I can support you for that. Send me an email.
I will, thank you.